in a muscle cell, skeletal muscle.
So when you burn it, muscle has energy, and you need to activate it.
When that muscle needs that energy, that molecule is readily available to be used. So let's say, for example, you're eating that balanced diet. You're only consuming the amount of the carbs that you're supposed to consume. So let's say you had your breakfast. You didn't have any physical activity yet, so it's stored what the body didn't use, but you're getting ready to go to the gym. It's now readily available. Have you ever heard of people who like carb load? People who might be marathon runners, for example, do some type of very strenuous sport, and what they'll do is they will eat a lot of carbs, like 3 to 4 days, like if it's a marathon run, they'll eat a lot of carbs about 3 to 4 days before the race, and the reason for that, the body has stored glycogen in those muscle cells. And those muscle cells that they're going to use while doing that marathon running, for example, is readily available for energy to make ATP. If it doesn't get used, it then goes into the fat cells. The body will store it in the fat cells. We need those carbs in the body to do quite well. We need them to help us produce ATP, okay? Yes, we do see them as a part of those chains that exist off of the cell membrane, but what we're going to find, as digestion occurs and we break them down, we have to break them down into their smallest component. We're going to see that we're going to have the ability to get that material to the blood so that we can get it to the cells where it can produce ATP. Anything in excess going to get stored as glycogen. Like I said, I usually in skeletal muscles, a little bit in the liver cells. Anything beyond use is converted to fat. But look at everything we need sugars for. Sugars become a part of our DNA because that's deoxyribose, which is a sugar, RNA, which is ribose. We have to produce ATP, and it's part of those glycoproteins and glycolipids.
You say like the glycogen that's stored in the muscles, then like if it's not used, it turns to like go to be stored in fat cells. Like how long does that take? Like when is it like, all right, we're not going to use this?
Yeah, it's only in short-term storage for about 3 to 4 days. If it's not used within that time frame, it does get shuffled into the fat cells and gets put into a molecule form that will stay stored. Then, if it ever becomes needed, the body can pull it, rearrange it, and use the glucoses. So, carbohydrates, DNA, RNA, ATP, glycoproteins, glycolipids. Lipids, once again, we consume those. We're going to see that we can use the fats that we consume for energy. They can be used to make ATP. They just come in at a different stage of cellular respiration, which we'll look at. What we don't use gets stored in adipose tissue and the liver. This is the reason that in, when we consume excess fats, like if you've ever known someone who said they have a fatty liver, it's because they have consumed too many of the excess fats, and this is where the body is now storing it. One of the things about the viscera of the body, they do have some covering of fat on the organs of the body for protection, okay? But when our diets become too full of the products that can turn into the fat or are the fat, that fat can actually get stored around the organs. That begins to affect the function of those organs. So it's not good to be told you have a fatty liver. It's basically meaning your liver is now unhealthy. And, they want you to lose it, because when you go on a diet, the first place that the body loses the weight is from the fat around the organs. Because that's the first place it wants to get rid of it. It doesn't want to have fatty organs. If you remember, we talked about having saturated and unsaturated. Saturated usually means it's a solid at room temperature. Unsaturated means it's a liquid at room temperature. We're going to have, we consume the cholesterol because that's a part of it, but some of the parts about cholesterol are not all bad, okay? Because if you remember, that gave structure to the cells. But cholesterol we take in. Once we get it into the body, we hopefully get to turn that product into phospholipids or use it as energy. Okay? Now, we do have some essential fatty acids that the body needs. The only way we get that type of fatty acid is to eat these products right here. If we eat seeds, nuts, legumes, grains, and green leafy vegetables, we're getting this acid, this linoleic acid, that the body needs. That's an essential, meaning the only way we get it is to eat it. The way that we use the lipids in the body, we produce ATP in cellular respiration, but just a little bit different way, okay? Excess is stored in adipose tissue or the liver. Becomes a little bit dangerous there. For cholesterol, we can eat it, but it can also be manufactured in the body if we need it. Because of the fact that it's in plasma membranes, and it can be modified in the body to form bile salts, which help us to digest our foodstuffs. These right here, eicosanoids, you're going to come back to those in part 2. Just don't forget them, because they're important in our immune system, cardiovascular, and visceral, smooth muscle. Phospholipids, I think we know how important phospholipids are in the body. Proteins. Do you guys remember the structure of proteins? Amino acids strung together, okay? You get your primary structure, which can become secondary, which can become tertiary, 2 or more of those together, quaternary, okay? Amino acids. We have those that are essential. We don't get them any other way but through our diet. Non-essential, the body can make them, doesn't really want to, okay, but it can. But let's stop for a second and let's think about why these are so important? Why are the amino acids that make the proteins so important? What is so important about these proteins? Okay.
So contractions?
Oh yes, we haven't gotten to those yet, but the protein components, for example, used for muscle contraction. What else do proteins do? It's the only product a cell can make. They're everything. So this is an extremely important part of your diet. We get complete proteins, meaning both essential and non-essential, if we eat stuff like meat, fish, poultry, milk, cheese, eggs. Some diets, however, don't include this. Anybody in here like vegan or anything? You're total vegan? No milk, no cheese, no dairy, no anything?
Vegetarian.
Vegetarian, okay. If you're getting these types, all right, like if you're getting the milk cheese, for example, you're getting a complete protein, all right? But in some cases, there are diets that don't consume any of this. They have to look to other sources. I mean, like I have a friend, I'm amazed at the foodstuffs that she comes up with to keep a complete diet, okay? Lots of food allergies, that sort of thing, gluten allergies, that sort of thing. And I'm just like, how do you eat? You know? And she's always posting like her recipes and, you know, pictures of her food and all this sort of stuff. It actually looks good, you know, and I'm just like amazed at the stuff she comes up with to be able to cook and fix. Proteins. We need them for our immune system. We need them for cell regulation, chemical reactions, and so forth. Structure, collagen. You'll be finding out how important collagen is to the body. Our muscle contraction, because the components that cause muscle to contract are actin and myosin. Transportation, for example, hemoglobin and the ion channels that we see in this plasma membrane. So proteins are going to be extremely important in the body. Let's pick up with this after break.